What is up, guys? David Zhao here, and today I wanted to talk about the best starter camera for content creators in 2020. And we've got two cameras today, just so that way I can do some product demonstration. So before I can make my recommendation, I wanted to quickly bring up the subject of budget. So a lot of people come up to me and they're like, hey, I want to buy a camera and camera plus lens included, I want it to be sub $500. If that's the scenario, honestly, if you've got the latest iPhone 11 or the latest Google Pixel 3, I would honestly recommend you doing photo and videography on your phones instead. Now, time and time again, content creators like Potato Jet, Parker Walbeck, they've demonstrated now, while they can't do shot for shot matching between a phone and, like, say, the Red Cinema cameras, they get good footage out of their phones. And all you have to do is shoot your phone in manual, and you can just get an app for that, and that'll still let you learn about photography, learn about the exposure triangle, you know, ISO, shutter speed, aperture. You can still pull the footage out of your camera, take it into your computer and edit it, grade it with the LUT. And because at the end of the day, footage from a sub $500 camera isn't gonna be that great. What I would rather recommend is save up that money, add a few hundred more dollars, and then get yourself a camera that is both beginner friendly, but also has the room for growth down the line. Personally, I love cameras like the A6100 and the A7 III, but those are like what, $1,200, $1,300 and $1,700 respectively? That's too expensive if you're just getting into the content creation game. So what is my camera that I recommend for beginners in 2020? Well, it is of course the Sony oh man, that's really blown out. The Sony a6100. Hold on, let me try this right here. This angle is probably a little bit better. The Sony a6100. Now, you can get it body only or with a lens, and I'll have a few lens recommendations in this video to show you the different types of results and types of photography that you can do with different lens combinations, but we'll get to that. But first, we'll assume that you just want to start with the kit lens, the 16 to 50. I really don't like this kit lens. But if you had to, you could still get great results with this kit lens. So why the Sony a6100? Well, the Sony a6000, what came out, I can't even remember, I think back when I was in high school, right when I was getting into photography, and it was, and up until the release of the a6100, one of the best selling mirrorless cameras on the market year after year, and that's because the price point's competitive and the feature set is so damn packed. And when people ask me for, hey, beginner camera recommendations, it's always hard because I want to recommend them the camera bodies I shoot with because I know what they can deliver in the room that you have to learn from and grow and continue to use it even up to professionally. But up until now, the a6000, you know, was great, but I didn't love it because there was a lot of features that I personally use every day that was missing from that camera. Well, no more. The Sony a6100 comes in at sub $600 if you're gonna get it just body only, and it is packed with a bunch of amazing features. Let's talk about the fact that you get a nice 24 megapixel sensor that you can get crispy details from that really can take advantage of these newer lenses that have all this detail resolution capabilities. On top of that, you have 4K at either 24 or 30 frames per second, letting you dabble into that 4K world where you're talking about high resolution files that you can zoom in and zoom back out from because you have that room, right? And on top of that, you have 120 frames per second in 1080p. Now you have great 1080p as is, you know, 24 frames, 30 frames, 60 frames per second slow motion, but you also have the room for 120 frames per second slow motion. That is 4 to 5 times slow motion. And that comes out of a $600 camera body, and it looks great. Oh, and one last nice thing, as a little flippy, tilty screen, which is super great, you know, if you wanna go ahead and vlog yourself, or so let's say you want to do something like what I'm doing right here where I'm recording myself. Well, this usual typical setup would be a camera over there and then on top of it like a on-camera monitor, but instead I can just flip up one of these tilt screens and I can just view myself. That's honestly really nice. I've said a lot of good things about the Sony a6100, but don't take my word for it. Let's see for ourselves. So let's talk about a vlogging lens or your travel lens. That's gonna be my first recommendation. And man, it really would be like the windiest day of this entire week, right when I go outside to try to film this. Anyways, so my first recommendation is the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. And here's why. It's wide enough where you have this field of view where you have my environment that I'm in, but also it's f1.4. And what that means is the background is super out of focus, which is super, super nice. And the reason why 16mm is so good is not only is it wide enough so you can see everything when you're like self-filming, but also it's a really great focal length to get landscapes, to get architectural shots, maybe not so much for real estate because it's not wide enough, but we'll get to that. But it is pretty dang wide, but it's not so wide that you still can't do portraits with it. See, even with the 16mm lens, you can still get environmental portraits. Now, before we jump over to portraits, let's get even wider than this lens. My next lens recommendation is the Laowa 9mm f2.8 zero distortion. It's a super wide angle lens, and let's go ahead and see what that looks like on this setup. I mean, just look at how incredibly wide this field of view is. I mean, I'm just literally, the lens didn't get farther away from me, just a heads up. Like, look at that. I'm a foot, an arm's length away from the camera right now, and you get all of this in view. So if you were, say, traveling, you were, say, vlogging, and you wanted a lens that just captured everything when you're self-recording, this focal length is the only way you can really achieve that effect, you know. You get so much in the background. And the other thing that this focal length is extremely good for is if you're trying to do real estate photography because you want to make small rooms look huge, or let's say you're filming in a dorm room. You want your room to obviously feel bigger than it actually is because it looks more impressive, it looks nicer, and you get more information in the frame. And that's what I highly recommend this lens for. I'm talking about, you know, super wide landscape shots, I'm talking about tight interior real estate shots. I'm also looking at things like astrophotography or architectural photography. Both of those things could benefit hugely from a super wide lens like a 9mm. Okay, so remember how we were talking about portraits earlier. So we're gonna jump back over to the Sigma 16mm f1.4 and show you what environmental portraits look like. But I guess if I'm gonna do portraits, I'm gonna need a model. Hold on, give me a sec.
Hello?
Hey, hon.
Oh, hey.
Are you busy right now?
A little.
I kind of wanted to do some portraits. Are you down?
Yeah, I guess I can.
Cool. Okay, see you there. So you might be, yeah, maybe having you just right behind me is a little bit weird. Okay, get out of my frame. Get out of my frame. So, as you can tell, you can shoot portraits on the Sigma 16 wide. It's a wide, nice lens, but you might be thinking there's a little bit something weird about those portraits. It's not what you're used to when you think of portraits. That's because it's a wide angle lens. Normally for portraits, you're gonna want something a little bit more tighter, something more compressed with the background more blown out to isolate the subject. And for that, I would recommend the Sigma 56 f1.4. Oh God, that's like way too, hold on, Annette, can you take this? So yeah, like the camera has to be a little bit farther away and now I'm yelling to talk to you. But if you want to do portrait shots, you're gonna want something with a longer focal length, like the 56mm to get this background compression. Pair that with an f1.4 aperture, you're gonna have yourself a very nice, isolated subject. So let's go ahead and roll that beat. So if you're looking for an amazing starter camera, A6100. I love this thing. It's basically got almost as much as its bigger brothers like the A6600 and the A7 III. It's just stripped of a few features. but it's still got a kick-ass sensor with a bunch of great features as we've seen today. Bonus content. So let's quickly talk about some accessories. So if you wanted to just shoot photos with this camera and you do not want to do any videos, then getting the camera body itself plus a good lens will get you basically 99.9% of the way there. But if you want to do video with this camera, you're going to want to look at a few accessories to make your life a little bit easier and get a little bit better production value out of your work. So first of all, if you're looking for good audio, yeah, this isn't gonna cut it. That ain't it, Chief. But to be fair, most in-camera microphones are pretty horrendous as is anyways. So you're gonna want to add an external microphone. That sounds much better. Okay, so I recommend picking up the Rode Video Micro. Hopefully that's, I don't know what the framing is on that, but hopefully it looks okay. The Rode Video Micro is a very, very small microphone that also provides a very, very good sound profile. And now you add the microphone on top, but now we've got a problem here. If you can't tell, kinda can't see your flippy tilty screen anymore. You can't really do one of these anymore. So that kind of defeats the purpose of having the flip screen, right? No problem, we'll just go ahead and buy a cold shoe extension so that way you can move the cold shoe mount over to the side of the camera body. While you're doing this, you're gonna need to remove these little strap loops in order to mount that cold shoe extension. And to be honest, you should probably just remove these anyways because they're god-awfully annoying. and that just peeked into the room like, what are you doing? Anyways, so how you remove them is you take off these little black clips. Ow. Okay. Now the hard part, you remove the black plastic. Now you gotta get rid of these. You just gotta have to pry them open and then, okay, there we go. Don't worry, if you wanted to add these back on later, you can always do that. And your camera is no longer a maraca. So here's the cold shoe extension plate, and it goes in just like this. You just slide it into the top, into your cold shoe, and you're gonna want to use the screw that they provide so that you can connect it together so it doesn't have this play. Let's go ahead and throw the microphone on, attach that, attach this. Let's go ahead and flip that screen up. Beautiful. Boom, look at that. Now you have your monitor and you have your microphone all in one, problem solved. Honestly, I'm very impressed on what an entry-level camera can do in 2020. We're talking about 1080p that also has up to 120 frames per second slow motion. We're talking about 4K, 24 or 30 FPS. And we're also talking about 24 megapixels of crispy detail that can be captured by this sensor, all in a $600 entry-level camera body. But that's up to you to decide. Every single clip and photo taken in this video and shown in this video has been from the Sony a6100. Of course, except for this talking head bit because I had to demonstrate the camera on screen. But everything else besides the bit shot here was shot on the Sony a6100. So I want to hear what you think. What do you think of the footage that came out of this? What did you think of all the footage in this video? What did you think of the photos I took that I showed in this video? Do you guys think the Sony a6100 really brings the A game to the table, or do you think that there's a better starter entry-level camera out there? I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to purchase or you just take a look at the Sony a6100, the lenses I talked about today, the accessories, links will be in the description box down below. They are affiliate links, so please do use them. Helps the channel, costs nothing more to you. You the best. So that does it for this video. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up. If you want to see more content just like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you can be the first to be alerted when a new video goes live. And as always, I will see you in the next video.